of kids. Yeah, human tea of kids. This is what is alleged in this suit. Now listen, don't get this messed up and sue me, Voldemort. I'm not saying that he did any of this stuff, but he sits on the board, right, with all of his other rich friends, and they've listed everybody on the board in this lawsuit. But it brings up a very frightening point that this digital currency age that we live in allows these lowlives to do an awful lot. And they're saying that these groups were aware of the fact that this was going on. And if that actually is the case, and obviously that is a very large problem. They're also on the list of things that it is alleged that you could easily pay for with these devices is also removing somebody from planet Earth, right? Calling up the old Sakura, the old, I need my house painted kind of thing. You could hire a hitman, allegedly. And a lot of them were being paid through these kind of surreptitious apps that weren't doing a lot of reporting of any of this stuff. Now, did they know about it? Who knows? My gut says if your business goes from 1.3 billion to 21 billion in 2 years, you know something's going on, right? Obviously, if you've ever had a business, your business starts to take off. If you said to somebody, hey, why did your business really take off in 2025? You could say, well, when we started talking about the Diddy case, or we started talking about this, a lot more people started to look at what we were doing, yada, yada, right? All this makes sense. They knew something was happening. And I'm guessing they probably had a forensic team that, worked for them to track things like advertisements and find out where people come from. And there's always those little surveys. And how did you hear about us? My friend who sells, the Bolivian marching powder said I could pay him this way. I've done shows on this on the Lifeboat, tons of them. This is the world that we live in. If you've got kids these days, chances are their dealer isn't some kid that they met at school. It's probably some dude that they met on Instagram who will get the stuff delivered to their house in 15 minutes. He'll let them pay with PayPal. He'll let them pay with Cash App. He'll let them pay with any kind of electronic currency that they want. And your kid goes outside to skateboard around the block. It's not like he's got to go into town or she's got to go into town or any of these things. It's gotten very, very dangerous here in this part of the world. The chemicals on the street are killing people, and these kind of apps and these kind of things are making it a whole lot easier to make these things go away. Now, the Tupac case has been put off again. This is painful to the people that have been following this and people who want justice, but we're not going to see the Tupac case pop up in 2025. We will not see it until 2026. Relatable Reese, this is my fiance. She will be on with me tomorrow night. We are doing our fourth installment of the Jester stuff. I've got a surprise for everybody, so we do hope all of you show up. It will be the most organized of the shows that we've done on this, and I really do hope that you stop by. It's going to be epic. Love you, babe. Glad that you're here. So, no chance we see this in 2025. And the crazy thing is, you've got the defense for absolutely good reason. This is a very legitimate argument, whether anybody likes it or not. But he's saying, it's pretty damn hard to put together a defense of something that happened to me this long ago. If you didn't find any epic new piece of evidence, why did it take you this long to charge me? It's a legit argument, right? Because the longer you get away from the actual crime, the harder it is to prosecute. Well, on the flip side of that, the harder it is to find somebody that could be an alibi or to find somebody that could be whatever. Great argument. Trouble is, this guy went on DJ Vlad. He also wrote a book, right? We all know the story behind this. He's been super open because he thought, he being Keefe D is the only person alive that was in the car the day that Tupac Shakur was shot. All of the other people that were in that car have since passed away. So they want justice. They're going to get justice. And I feel bad for Dwayne Keefe D because there's nobody left, right? There's nobody left to blame. And is this the guy? Is he the reason that Tupac is no longer on the planet? I don't know. As we get closer, we're definitely going to be taking a look at this. My brother actually has been really deep diving this case but I've said this on here before. I don't believe that the intended target was Tupac Shakur. If you look at the people, there's an old adage, but if you take a look at the people who's going to benefit if Tupac disappears, Obviously, people say a lot about the Diddy thing, and there's a lot of theories about that. There's the alleged check for $1 million, and Keefe D says unequivocally that Diddy told him he'd give him $1 million if he took care of the problem with Tupac. So there's a lot of people that believe that that is the case, right? But who benefits? Yada, yada. Now, who benefits if Suge Knight disappears is a really, really different answer. And if you look at that particular time, who would have benefited? It becomes a really fascinating narrative. It would also become this entire show, which I'm not going to do because there's a lot we have to go over. But the Empowered Wendy says, you think it was a Suge? Yeah, I do 100% think that Suge Knight was the target. I think that Suge Knight was the target, and I think it's really odd. This is, I think this. Don't put this on Atwood. It's Tommy Scoville, right? But I also think that there are other people involved in this that really would have benefited massively, including, everybody's favorite really kind and sweet rapper, right? Snoop Doggy Dogg, who did not decide to head out to the fights. Instead, allegedly, he was holding on to a two-way walkie-talkie, which I think was a Nextel phone. The way it's written up in all the things, it made you sound like he had he had a Motorola on his hip to see what was going on and check the progress. I think it was probably one of those Nextel talk to walkie-talkie phones that were all the rage back then. But he really would have done pretty well. And Suge Knight's ex-wife would have taken everything. It's a very interesting case, and we will talk about it ad nauseum. I promise you. But the hottest thing that's going right now in Hollywood, make no mistake, is the lawsuits that are bopping around with Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. This has got everybody absolutely on fire. This is bigger than the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial. So far, it's taking off at a rate that is, because there are so many people in this that are so damn litigious, right? All of these people are ready to file lawsuits, and they're filing paperwork back and forth. We all know that Blake Lively put in an amended complaint, and it went in with 2 minutes to spare, right? On Tuesday night. So we were covering it on Wednesday morning, but there was another one filed today. And it's by the PR firm, Leslie from that PR firm, who wants her name removed from this lawsuit because she says there are all of these allegations that have been made, but they're not showing real damages. I've talked about this a lot on this program because a lot of this audience is not from the United States of America, right? We got a lot of people on the Atwood program who are from Great Britain, from all over the world, right? It's a big audience, but a lot of them are from Great Britain, from Europe. People, do you understand the concept of damages? Put a 2 in the chat if this makes sense to you. Put a 3 in the chat if it doesn't. Because it's really easy to say, I'm going to sue somebody for $100 million. Now, a lot of times you can sue someone for $100 million that doesn't have $100 million. This happens all the time in the United States. That doesn't matter. But what matters is you got to be able to show that the person damaged you. We've all seen a bunch of stuff that's been said about the owner of this channel. Because if you've got 1 million subscribers, and Sean Atwood almost does, you're going to have some trolls. So why doesn't Sean sue these trolls off of the map? Because you can't prove that these little 4,000 views or 3,000 views that someone trashed you and said something about. How do you prove that damaged your brand? How do you prove that set you back financially? Because in the United States, it's not as simple as, hey, man, you said some stuff that isn't true. Okay. All right. So then they can make you print a retraction. They can make you take it down or whatever. Yeah, well, I want to be compensated. You destroyed my reputation. Did we? Diddy right now has got his attorney sending out cease and desists to everybody in sight. And my argument is this. How the hell can you tell who's hurting Diddy at this point? Right? If you're a channel that got 25,000 views on a video that you did where you said something bad about Sean Combs. Sean Combs has, if we read through the lawsuits that Sean Combs has currently against him, it would take me probably about 10 minutes. But I'll tell you this, they start in 1990 and they continue to go up until basically into 2025, right? There are people who have been filing that things up until 2024, allegedly he was still assaulting people. But there are so many lawsuits out there that are pending and so many huge media outlets that have done stories on him. Peacock has done a documentary. TMZ has done a documentary. There are so many different places out there that are talking about this. You're going to pick a content creator and say, you damaged me financially? You got to be able to prove that. That becomes a very hard bar, right? That's not an easy thing to prove. So when you get into this Baldoni case, Baldoni is suing a lot of people, and he is because if you're unfamiliar with this story, because we don't always cover this over here, it's a pretty simple case of he said, she said, except it's really, really entitled Hollywood people on one side. You've got Blake Lively and you've got Ryan Reynolds. He's the cat from Deadpool, right? Kind of a wisecracking, a lot of locker room jokes. I don't know. And listen, people come down both sides on this. If you're a fan of Deadpool, if you find it to be a very, very funny movie, I'm not mad at you, right? I thought the first one was hysterical, but then it's just the same. It seems to be the same jokes over and over and over again to me. Like they'll work a new script in, but it's just always the same kind of homoerotic jokes where it's a lot of jokes about whether or not he's straight or gay. Like they just keep playing the same things over and over again. If you find the movie really funny, give me a 2 in the chat. And again, I'm not mad at you if you do. And I was a big Ryan Reynolds fan before all of this broke. I'm keeping that real. But what happened is they did this film called It Ends With Us. And the film is based on a book that Baldoni bought the rights to. And this book was very heavy. This is a book that highlights domestic violence, right? DV. And that's kind of what they wanted the movie to be about. It was going to honor the victims of that. This was going to be something solid for them. And they allowed Baldoni to buy this because the guy has a podcast. He wrote a book about how men ought to treat women. It was a book basically about toxic masculinity. And Ryan Reynolds has shown his true colors. Well, yeah, he did. It is funny. It is raunchy. I'm not upset at that. I just think it tends to be recycled. I don't think that there's a whole lot of new under the sun. But now he's got his wife going out and doing this movie with a guy named Justin Baldoni. Now, here's the thing about Baldoni. He looks like he just finished doing yoga about 15 minutes ago. Now, I realize Ryan Reynolds is cut like a Greek statue and all that. He's done they do the body sculpting. After they go in and work out and do all that, they get it, they're perfect. And then they make it up even better. And this guy's he's really built well. But so is Justin Baldoni. And Justin Baldoni is sensitive. This is a guy that has really spent a lot of time letting women know that he believes they are on an equal footing as men. It goes part of his religion, right? Honestly, he believes in a religion that most people do not. But for hundreds of years, it has preached that women and men are absolute equals. So they kind of picked a guy for this book that was perfect. The trouble is they didn't pick a female star for the movie that was perfect, in my humble opinion. See, right from the start, we get off to a bad footing when she doesn't read the book. She admits this. We're not talking about War and freaking Peace, right? We're talking about a book she could have busted out in about 3 hours. But she didn't read the book. And allegedly, she came in and started to try to take over the film. Now, we know that her husband has done this on some, if you know anything about the couple, he did this on the first Deadpool movie. But in this particular film, it was over the top. Like they fired the person who was doing the music because they wanted to bring in a friend. This is just one example. But they fired the person who was doing the music score because they wanted to bring in a friend to do it instead. A friend of Ryan Reynolds and his wife. This person had also happened to do some stuff for them in the past. So they're, like Hollywood nepotism. They're not family, but they're friends. They've been working together a long time. They gave the guy 2 weeks to write the entire score. All of the music had to be done in 2 weeks. And this is something that she did throughout the entire picture, allegedly. She rewrote scenes. She did all of these things. And then she files a lawsuit alleging that she suffered SH. You know what that is, right? We know what SA is because that would be assault. Well, this is the harassment version. And she claims that she suffered sexual harassment. And she talks about one in particular. There's this one scene where it's an intimate scene and they're on a dance floor and he's creeping her out. He's running his big nose up and down the side of her neck and telling her she smells good. And in all, just being creepy. Now, this came out in December of last year. She filed this. It hit the New York Times, honestly, before it was filed. If you look at the timeline, it honestly, I mean, maybe moments, but they had to have had that with plenty of time to file it. So the New York Times had this. Now, it's been alleged that it was handed over to them by the Blake Lively team. And they printed a lot of text messages that really made it look like Baldoni was just a lowlife, man. This guy was creepy. Trouble is, there was no context to any of it. They didn't give you what was said above it. They wouldn't give you what was said below it. She is a B-list actress is who she is. There was a television show called Gossip Girl that ran. It was very popular for a while here in the U.S. She kind of got her start in that, and then she's done a lot of films, right? But she's not really an A-lister. You know, she was in the film The Green Lantern, and on the set of The Green Lantern, she met Ryan Reynolds, who at the time was married to Scarlett Johansson. Now, allegedly, everybody on the set could see sparks flying. They were always doing that. You know, they have the same sense of humor apparently, and they were joking constantly and laughing with one another and whatever. Now, I'm not saying that the two of them had an affair and that that's what broke up the marriage or any of that stuff. I'm not alleging that. But if you want to go find a bunch of people that are alleging that, they're all over the internet. It's not hard to find a bunch of people that allege that. There's also a bunch of people that say she's done this with everybody that she's ever worked with. She kind of falls for her co-stars. And again, Baldoni, tall, chiseled, good-looking guy by all accounts. You know, no Diddy, but he's a good-looking dude. Hold on one second. Yeah, this is fascinating. And I'm glad you said that. For me, it's the whole Hollywood game. We're able to see what publicists do to lie to the general public. Acting is all about lying too. How do they ever know who's telling the truth? Well, that's a great point. On this channel before, I believe BJ has been on here before from BJ Investigates. BJ did a great story about this last week where she dove into how a lot of these PR companies are able to destroy somebody like a Justin Baldoni, right? And you say, well, why would they want to? Because what happened is the word got out that this was a very toxic set. Now, depending on who you believe, there are people that will say when the face diaper thing happened and we had to lock everybody down, Ryan got to look at some stuff on the phones and some text messages, not sure who they were with or whatever, but allegedly the guy got real jealous. He thought his wife was getting just a little bit too cozy with this guy Baldoni, and he starts getting really torqued about it. And then he does some stuff like, hey, if you thought your wife was being harassed like that, if you thought somebody was being inappropriate and putting their hands on her in an inappropriate way, you know, you might beat the crap out of the guy. I don't know if you'd make a bunch of jokes about it. Put a 2 in the chat if you would find that funny, or if you would find it appropriate to make jokes about it, because I don't find that funny. Put a 3 in the chat if you would take a different route, because let me tell you what this dude did. He filmed. He got the Deadpool 3 cast. I think it was Deadpool 3. That's Wolverine, right? And all that. He got the cast back together. The crew was done filming, but he wanted to add something to the film. And he wanted to add a character that he called Nice Pool. And Nice Pool is a male feminist. And he had a man bun on the top of his head because you see at the time, so did Justin Baldoni. He was growing it out so that he could donate it to kids that have cancer. In fact, all that's on video. If they had done a little research, they would have seen him donating those locks. But anyway, he puts a man bun on Nice Pool. And then he makes some comments about Nice Pool's dog and how that dog keeps hanging out with other people and she's can't be trusted kind of a thing. No lie. Obviously, the dog being a representation of his wife. But this ends with Nice Pool after being mocked. And by the way, he's got a prosthetic nose to make it look more like me and Baldoni. He's picking on the guy. And then he has him shot so many times that I don't think you can calculate how many times. In front of a flower shop called the Burning Sage Florist. Baldoni, you see, was known to burn sage on the set before the filming would start. Johnny Scoville, good to see you. That's my brother, you know. He's kind of a big deal, pepper eater. But the burning sage thing, some people believe in this wholeheartedly. My son is one of them. There are people who burn sage to clear out an area and just sort of change the vibe, right? And look, man, if it makes you happy, do it. But I wouldn't mock the guy for it. But they called it the Burning Sage Florist. In the film, you see, Lily, the character, runs a flower shop. So this is all just busting on Baldoni, and he does it in the film, and then he leaves these little clues, like in the final credits, there's a dig to him. It's bad form. It's not something a man would do if his wife was being S8 or SH'd. They just wouldn't. And by the way, I don't know how you read it. Some of the lawsuits actually are saying SA. Some of them are saying SH. They miss this last amended lawsuit is amazing. The number of typos and screw ups where they say Ms. Baldoni instead of Mr. Baldoni, things like that, dates that are wrong. But I'll tell you the argument that kills me. The argument that kills me is this. There was a scene with Miss Lively where she ad-libbed some extra passion in one of the scenes. Did a little extra kissing, did a little extra, a little extra something. And their argument is she can do that. She can do that. But he can't. If he does that in the next scene, then he should get turned into HR, right? Because you can't improvise during a sex scene. She complained to the press. There was no intimacy coordinator. We know that's not the truth. You see, as all of this started to explode, Baldoni had a different approach. He said, she said, all that stuff. How about if I just show you every correspondence between us? Here's all of the text messages so you can see the context of what really was said in those text messages. By the way, she says that I did this, this, and this during that intimate scene. I happen to have it on film. And he put it on his website. And the website was out for the whole world to go. And a funny thing happened. 2025 happened. The truth happened. People had an opportunity to go and read this stuff and say, well, the stuff that Blake Lively's saying doesn't add up. Now, does that mean that this is a 100% Baldoni victory? He's a perfect guy. He didn't do anything wrong. Who knows? Right? I talk about this all the time. I feel very passionate about it. Right? What is Blake's truth? There's no such thing as Blake's truth. There's no such thing as Justin's truth. Tell you what, that crap they filmed, there you go. Go look at that. You'll see the truth. It's open to interpretation, obviously. Everybody's interpretation is pretty damn close on this. I was on a channel, I was saying this the other day. There were 3,200 people in the chat. And they put up a thing that said, are you team Blake Lively or are you team Baldoni? And when this thing broke on the 21st of December, I did a video where I came out and said, you hate to see this, but it looks like another woman in Hollywood is a victim of another dude. And I said at the time, I'm going to stand with the victim always, 100% until we have a reason not to. Boys and girls, we got a reason not to stand with this woman and her husband. They're bad folk. I'm sorry, it's my humble opinion. They're bad folk. We can watch them try to assemble a team, right? The plank woman gets a job doing a voiceover, not a voiceover because she's actually filmed. You can see her sitting in it. She gives a definition. They flew her all the way out to Wrexham so she could explain to the world what a bromance was. Because you know what? That's a tough concept to figure out on your own. You kind of have to have somebody walk you through the whole bromance concept, don't you? I mean, it's hard to figure out. Two dudes that hang out and, I don't know, they give each other cool bro hugs or whatever and go to football games together, probably some beer drinking and slapping each other on the butt or whatever. Not sure I really understand it. Maybe she should come over and explain it to me. But she went over to Wrexham for a documentary they were doing on the football club to explain what a bromance was because this guy bought a football team, the Wrexham club. This is Blake Lively's husband. He's kind of a big deal, folks. He's worth about $400 million, which is, ding, 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 oddly enough, how much Baldoni is suing them for. $400 million. Now, remember what I said earlier? You just can't go smoking into court and saying, I want $400 million. Why? Well, because he made me angry, right? He hurt my feelings. He said things about me that weren't true. Now my kids have to hear it. Okay, that's pain and suffering. And they can reward you some money for pain and suffering. They're not going to give you $400 million likely. They're not. So you got to show actual damages that are going to somehow correlate to the amount of money you're asking for. But in a twist of fate, this guy Baldoni was represented by the William Morris Agency in Hollywood, California. And if you don't know anything about the William Morris Agency, they're the Babe Ruth of Hollywood agents. If you score an agent at William Morris, you're going to get parts. You're going to get movie roles. You're going to make good money. And Hollywood is Hollywood. So if you're a guy, they're going to be getting you great movie roles for 25 years or more, right? Because they'll make you an action star up till you're 65. With women, it's a little different. But you know something? You can say, okay, a star of his caliber is going to get how many films each year from William Morris? Let's say 2 films a year. 2 films a year. Let's say he's making $6 million a film. That's $12 million a year times 25 years. He's also lost projects that people wanted him to direct or people wanted him to work on them with. They pulled the plug on it because they think he's a sexual predator. You see, that's what the narrative has been. And Ryan Reynolds went to the William Morris agency and he talked to a guy there named Ari Emanuel, who is the agent at William Morris. He's also one of the owners. He owns the UFC, or a company that owns the UFC. Billionaire, huge money guy, but also keeps his hand in the game as an agent. And he is an agent for Blake Lively and for Ryan Reynolds. Actually represents them personally. And let's be honest, they're booking good money for films. They're getting paid well, especially Ryan Reynolds. You know, you do Deadpool, he's getting paid pretty well for that franchise. So that guy says, I'm ride or die. That's a quote. I'm ride or die with Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. So he fired Justin Baldoni, whatever the hell his name is. That was honestly a quote too. He acted like he just couldn't be bothered. He didn't care what the guy's name is. Yeah, I got rid of him. Well, you got rid of him because allegedly, and this is pretty well documented, but allegedly that Ryan Reynolds, after several attempts at trying to get this guy fired from William Morris, successfully did. That's a problem. That's a problem because now you're starting to be able to show damages. And if a couple of people that were going to pay you to be a director in their film, who knows what they're paying directors these days? But I would imagine that it's probably tied in some way to the size of the budget of the film. But whatever it is, it's millions of dollars. I don't think they're paying the guy $200,000 or something to go. All of this starts to add up to damages. And the worst part is the damage to your reputation in this one is vicious. You're accused of being a sexual predator. They use throughout the lawsuit again and again and again the word predator, the word predator, the word predator. Predatory behavior, predator this, predator that. I got news for you. That's a very hard thing to recoup your reputation from. Doesn't take a lot of jackasses saying things like that to start doing very serious damage. And there are going to be people always who heard the big thing on the 21st of December, but may not paid a lot of attention after that. And when they hear the name Justin Baldoni, there'll be a person in the room that goes, isn't he the guy that did whatever to, what's her name? These allegations get taken as fact. But the rich and the powerful have been using the law to steamroll over people for a long time. Baldoni pops up and says, I'm not laying down for this. I'm going to release all of my stuff. I'm going to let the world read it, and I'm going to countersue you for $400 million. Since then, Blake Lively and her husband have lost about 500,000 followers each, give or take. This is on Instagram, which is one of the easy places that you can go and research how they're doing by using Social Blade. Both of them have dropped within about 4,000 of each other, the same number of people, all right in that 500,000 mark. In the same period of time, Justin Baldoni has increased by about 250,000, which would lead you to believe that the narrative is changed to this guy's a victim of these people. This is a nice guy that they tried to roll over the top of. And because they're rich and powerful people in Hollywood, well, hell, they should just be able to, shouldn't they? If you've ever seen any of the clips of film of this woman, she's absolutely reprehensible. She's talking to a guy who's he's interviewing her because of a film that she had just done. And she pulls out a bottle of booze and says, come on, time to drink, and starts pouring it. And he goes, that's a little early in the morning, don't you think? And she shoves this fat glass of gin down this dude's throat. I'd have thrown it in her face. I'm sorry. You want to talk about consent? This is a chemical you're forcing on somebody whose job it is just to show up and interview you. And if you could watch the entitled way in which she pours it, the way she treats people in these pressers for films, no wonder Baldoni was probably happy as hell not to be out there with her. They said after his movie was done, he was not allowed to go out and promote his movie with the cast. Why? Because he had created such a toxic work environment that nobody in the cast wanted to be anywhere near him. Trouble with that is nobody on the cast said that. These guys shot their mouth off all over the place talking about what a great director he was, that he had built this unbelievable environment where everybody could be themselves and you could create creatively and you didn't have to worry about. Doesn't sound like a guy that was sexually harassing half of the cast. It just doesn't. Now, who knows, right? He said, she said. But I said this in the very beginning of this thing. The real victim in this is the people who are real victims in the Me Too movement. Women that come forward and say, hey, my boss just asked me to do this if I was going to keep my job. And the people go, oh, come on, man. Are you kidding? Guy's a vascular surgeon. He's going to risk his career and do all that to ask you to give him a mouth hug or whatever. Come on, man. That didn't happen. The reason that people do that stupid BS is because of cases where people come forward and they say, hey, I'm a victim.